All right, we have a fun party. We've been working on it all week. Now, normally we would have one extra day of content where I do something like make a dungeon with you all and we'd go over considerations. So I kind of blended that into the second part of the night. For right now and what we're doing in part 1, and part 1 and 2, I've done a lot of background, so I'll be able to present it succinctly. If you have questions, we can answer them along the way. And while you do see a lot of finished work on the screen, there is going to be the opportunity for us to talk and for you to give your opinions about the party and things you might consider strengths or weaknesses. When we finish our party at the end of the week, we do what's called a SWOT report on them. And that stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What are those? Well, that's the blank section that you and I are going to work on together. I wanted to present to you a way that, speaking as fellow player characters, right? We have our PC fezzes on right now. As PCs, we've made our characters. We're sitting down at a table together and we're saying, all right, guys and girls, this is who we are as a team. This is our team's character sheet. What are we good at doing, right? We all kind of went in our own directions. We thought, oh, this would be really cool to make for a pirate character, for someone who joined a sailing crew. Yep, here we go. So in order, we have Janet, Ethel, Malda, Shiana, and Amadea. What I did, first off, I put each of their ability scores in an array, along with the proficiencies, their save proficiencies, and their alignment. And I did this so we can compare them on a statistical level. Now, you are very right to say, well, look, when we made Janet and Amadea, they're both level 4 bards. How does that stand up to a level 18 warlock? In 5th edition, these curves are kind of flattened out. I wouldn't recommend a level 4s trailing along with 18s. Though what we can do is we put the stats up here and we see where they're going to be going anyway. Either where they're at as a low level, which is fine because we want low level characters in our campaign, or we see where they're going to head, where they're going to go. If you're a warlock at level 1 or level 18, charisma is going to be your high score. So it should be no surprise that Malda here is going to have a very high starting charisma. Whether it's 20 or 18, does that really matter? Maybe not necessarily. So anyway, here we have our five officers on the ship. I think there's going to be a couple extras, and we'll get down to that. But everyone here does something in particular aboard the ship, along with being their race, class, and background. Hoy, Jam Jam! Or ahoy, I should say. We have, we're getting our crew together to set sail, and we're doing our SWOT report. Also, this is going to come into play a little bit later, our saves, our proficiencies, when we're comparing our strengths and weaknesses. And for the alignments, this is going to give us a direction, or maybe how adhesive or cohesive our party is to each other or to certain goals that will show up in the course of the campaign. So Jam Jam is relaxing, drinking tea with one hand and summoning arcane fury with the other. Oh, yeah, you steal my hat again, right? This is a very powerful fez. Next up, I made a list of each of these skills and I set next to them the name or names of the party members that have a proficiency in it. Now, we have 2 bards in the party. 1 bard alone would be well worth the note, but especially 2. And I'll tell you, when we made our healing words, our almost all bard party, that was very interesting. So when we do this, it should be noted that we do have 2 bards. Each of our bards has Jack, or Jill in this case, of all trades. Meaning that every skill has decent coverage. When you see this big red line here with an X next to animal handling, no one has a proficiency in it. But we do have characters who are not bad at it. There's just not a proficiency. As well, if you have rogues or bards, you're going to be experiencing expertise as a player character. To indicate skills that have expertise, I made them stand out with a bold and italic format. Now, if you wanted, you said, look. Janet has athletics. She has expertise. She's really good at it. Maybe we could color code it and say, well, it's a yellow strip because only 1 character has proficiency in that background. And you can say, well, but what I think we should do is there. We'll put the name as green to indicate that she's good at it. Though it is a yellow strip. However you want to do it. Whatever makes sense to you and your play group. Otherwise, by default, what you see here, if no one has a proficiency in a skill, I put a large X and I make it red, right? It stands out. If you or someone in your play group has color blindness, you may want to adjust the colors accordingly. If 1 character has proficiency, it's yellow, right? It's good. You have a proficiency in that skill, it's coverage. If something were to happen to that character, however, you don't have a backup. A backup person who is statistically going to be better at that skill than others. Green is if you do have backup. And blue indicates, look, 3 of our 5 party members they have proficiency in religion and in medicine. There's a very good chance that should these types of skills be needed, we're going to be passing. Death Count, hello, welcome. Sorry, I'm missing out a little bit. Dorgrim and Shippo are kind of having a back and forth about rules and character tweaking and mechanics. Shippo, are you still trying to make your like ultimate speedster character, or is this a different concept you're going for? What's next here? Party languages. This is something else that we can sit down and do as PCs together. If you wanted to spread it out like you did with party skills, you can do that. For sake of keeping it all on one page, I listed which languages the party as a whole has access to. Obviously, there's redundancies, right? We have Common. Everyone speaks Common because that is the mashup language of the realm. Between all of the other characters, or all the characters, they have these extra languages available. Draconic, Infernal, Celestial, Primordial, Sylvan, Halfling, Druidic. Written ciphers, because of the linguist feat, you can create your own secret code. That is itself a language, but it is a written language. Dwarven, Elven, and Gnomish. Now, I went through before tonight's session, and where we had some question marks about things like artisan tools or languages, I sat down and I thought, all right, what would this character, not what the party, you can do that if you wish, if you want to be kind of meta about it, why would this character have access to these languages? So here we have, actually this was one that I did a language and an artisan, right? She's a hill dwarf, so she starts with Common and Dwarven, but she received one extra language for being a hermit. Why would she get Sylvan, which is it's a quasi-secret language. It's kind of a magical language. It is the language of the Fae, you know, kind of upon which Elven is based, but we're going back further than that. Well, I looked and I said, well, we have an Archfey as our patron. Why wouldn't we, as an agent of this Archfey, be able to speak that patron's native tongue? Now, your DM might be different. If Hermit is giving you a background, your DM might say, well, you can only take a common language, or Draconic is an unusual language. But for instance, in my personal campaign world, I treat Draconic kind of like Latin. It's a mother tongue for most of the other languages that exist, and most magic in my world is written in Draconic, at least the origins. My cats are making noises, sorry. You gotta check on that stuff. They're galloping around. They must have... One of them picked a fight with someone else. Hey, Plunder Loot. 'Tis me, and 'tis you. Shippo says this is the Speedster character. You want to make sure it's valid. It looks like unarmored movement, fast movement, and mobile should work because of how you have to not be using armor for Monk Barbarian stuff. Yep, you gotta be... You gotta be just walking around in a robe or a loincloth or something, and then you're fully armored, besides any magical or quasi-magical effects. So yes, I went through the individual characters and I said, based on their personality, the history that we've made for them, etc., what would they learn? And I was able to fill in these gaps. Same with some of the tools down here. Why is it that Malda here would have access to carpenter's tools? Well, she's a dwarf, and dwarves have access to things like mason tools and such. But she was a hermit. She was kicked out of where she was at for a crime that she did not commit. And here she is. She was wandering around through the woods or the jungle, and has come across this Fae, this Archfey. And so learning how to shape and sculpt wood instead of stone, it made a lot of sense for her personally. And it also makes sense because she can transfer these skills onto a ship. Many ships have ship carpenters aboard that are able to make repairs to the ship while it's in transit, or can help fix breaks and things. A bit of an engineer, you could say. And that's how we came to these determinations for language and party tools. Now, other tool uses came with classes or backgrounds. Navigator's tools, vehicles, water. Between 3 of the party members, they know how to play 7 different instruments. Did I want to list them all? Not necessarily. It wasn't directly relevant to the mechanics of what we're doing. However, to the aesthetics of the place that we're at, right? If you go back to our episode in the VOD or on YouTube, we made a bit of a musical themed area here. We had this mountain range, kind of looked like a guitar, and it spilled out into a lake, and floating above the lake are these islands. And the islands are in vague shapes of musical notes. So being able to know how to play music, you know, singing some sky or sea shanties as we go around is going to be important. Then lastly, an abbreviation of the roles that we have as PCs in the party. For instance, Janet's a bard, high magic, healing, and she is she's the main melee fighter. Right? If we go over to Janet, if she upgrades to medium armor, which she can have, and she can max out her dex bonus to medium armor, this can go a lot higher. This is only her starting gear of leather. She probably has something like a breastplate, or even higher if she's going to be the leader of this group. And she's being a College of Valor bard. She's that in-your-face fighting bard. You know, we gave her Tavern Brawler. She's very physical, very physical. And that's exactly how she likes to play. You know, welcome aboard, and kind of gives you that, like, that sock on the shoulder. Or, you know, she'll hug you, but she'll hit you as she's hugging you. So she's a rough and tumble lady. She likes to, you know, she likes to wrestle. She likes to get into tavern brawls. It makes her feel alive. So our bard is actually going to be the tank or the big frontline melee fighter of the group. Let me make sure I'm still catching up on what we have going in chat. Dorgrim is giving some good advice to Shippo. And Shippo is still pursuing some... Like, Shippo, you're asking good questions. The questions you're asking are not only good mental exercises, not just in storytelling, but particularly for character building. But they're also great because sometimes when we come into conflict like this, we do have to take a moment and reference our books, our common sense, our past experience. Maybe we have to look at an FAQ or some sort of errata. So the questions that you're asking and trying to probe and make this ultimate speed character build is a wonderful practice in itself, and I appreciate you trying to pursue it. Hopefully it's getting a few of our people here kind of scratching their heads saying, how can we make this work? Even if it's a personal challenge. You know, if you really like story and you're not so much about character mechanics, this will still be a really a good thing to consider. Yep, Dorgrim, that is also sage advice. Anything from Unearthed Arcana is officially unofficial content. It's not play tested. It's produced by Wizards of the Coast, so it's passed some muster. But it's really just throwing some ideas out there, allowing you to play with them and play test them, and then they'll consider them for printing in some future book. So if you're making builds like this, Shippo, you really need your DM's consent. And then you need to have a backup plan if your DM says no, stick to published materials only. Or also, Shippo, something else to consider. Many DMs use what's called PHB +1, which means you can use the player's handbook and you get one extra book or one extra officially printed source to supplement your character. Now, if you're doing this as a mental exercise, or if you're playing a DM that says, I don't really care, any published or Unearthed Arcana, you can just kind of go to town. Then, hey, incorporate as much as you can. But that is an important point. For a while, we were playing with Unearthed Arcana in my group, since a lot of us are experienced role players. And we got to a point about the time that Xanathar's Guide to Everything was printed, and we said, okay, now we're just going to stick to the printed books. And we all switched our characters around, and everything fit within what was printed, and we have not used Unearthed Arcana since then. We'll read it, and we'll consider it and talk about it as a new one comes out before our session, but we don't use any of the content from Unearthed Arcana. Shippo says, it seems the Flying Feet is not play tested. James, so Maddie, I have a couple of friends who are wanting to have characters made. I think one of them is here now. Well, have your character speak up then, and maybe we can help him or her out. Dorgrim says, Shippo, I would instead focus on what's in the books. There's a lot of 5e stuff that's not official, so making all this stuff up in the hopes of playing it, you may run into a DM that won't allow. Yep, there you go, Dorgrim. Would you mind helping him? I don't mind helping him, Jam. Shippo says there's a lot of issues with having flight speed for a ton of DMs. That's true. 3D&D can be fun. It can also be frustrating, especially if only one character can play 3D&D and everyone else is Earthbound. Jam is making a lewd face. So there's that issue. Yes, Shippo, that is an issue. Because flight isn't really gained until above level 5 when spells that give the ability to fly. That is correct, Dorgrim. Jam mistyped. So you meant, so instead of the, like a Zero Suit Samus with a lewd face, it's an angry Zero Suit Samus. Death Count, Jam, I just made my first character a few days ago with Dark Wolf. Yes, Dark Wolf did in fact help out, and that was great of her. Jam says congrats, and Bobstick5, yes, one of them is here now. Hint, it's me. Well, but you could be anyone. You could be Jam's friend, but could you be someone else too? Questions. I'll tell you what, Bobstick. Dun dun dun. Yep, yeah, we're talking about you, Dark Wolf. You know, we're saying all that behind the back stuff about how nice you are and how you helped Death Count make his first 5e character. You know, all that lame stuff that only bullies do. Bully-a-woos. Jam Jam, yes, Dark Wolf, talking about what kind of a beauty you are. Aw. Aw, Jam Jam. What a big old sucker. Dorgrim, Shippo, no Unearthed Arcana stuff is published. It's just playtest material. Some of the UA stuff made the final cut and got released. That is true. Shippo says we're forcibly changing how the Monk Barbarian feat speed works. Bob Stick, that's a cute little emote, Bob. Shippo, or they would just disallow multi-classing. Ooh, Jam Jam got a woo hug. A lot of issues at once. Oh, yeah. All Unearthed Arcana, it's just playtest. It's not official, or like it's officially unofficial material, or unofficially official material. I don't know how you wanna, which way you wanna look at that, Shippo. It's stuff to consider. It's stuff that do what you're doing. Have thought experiments with it. You know, push it to the max. Try and combine it with everything under the sun. Stress test it, but realize that at the end of the day, it is not printed material, and it is not considered a core part of 5th edition. They're experimental rules that may work and may work well. Sometimes it could also just be very broken. Bob Stakes with a very suave-looking clown face. Thanks. So they need to have a big reprint for that speedy character idea. Well, so yeah, if you're looking up builds, or in, you know, I don't know if you're doing it from the ground up yourself, make sure you look for that. What is the source of these things? Because that will make a big difference. Why a brownie point and why not a gold nugget? Death Count says because they just have brownies. that makes sense. Okay, so getting back here, we have Janet the Bard, high magic, healing, and she is our melee fighter, being a College of Valor Bard. In fact, she can put in work up front. She can get a decent AC, and she can still hit, she can hit rather hard with her weaponry. Then we have Ethel, who is our, you know, we're kind of joking, we have an anime harem as the officers of the ship here. He's the only male, and the other officers are four females, including someone that we referred to as a trifling lolly, Amadea here. Because you always have to have that. She's probably the type of character that has like the blonde hair that comes down into 2 drills on the side, like drill pigtails. Jam Jam steals a brownie. Jam Jam, you're being a bit of a klepto tonight. You stole my hat and you stole a brownie from Death Count. You better watch out, Bob Stick. I don't know what Jam Jam's gonna take next. Out of gold, wife takes that, and kids take the brownies this morning. Death Count, oh no. Downside is a super high speed. And again, Shippo, there is diminishing returns on speed. So unless you're doing this to just absolutely super max and to find out how fast you can go, once you start getting into being able to move even 40 feet around instead of 30, 50, 60, you're going to outpace most everything that you're going to encounter that's not an outright animal. And so at that point, you know, how much more do you want to stack on? Because going from 60 to 120, that's not necessarily going to change the battlefield tactics that your enemies are going to have. So where else could you have invested those feats or those multi-class crossovers? And also, Shippo, make sure you're aware that you do need certain thresholds of abilities in order to multi-class. Ability scores, I'm sorry, to be specific. Who else did we have? Malda is our Warlock. Medium Magic, yeah, they're an arcane class. I say Medium Magic because they work magic differently. You might be able to consider them high magic, or maybe if it was a tome lock instead of a blade lock. Though I'm listing Malda as a medium magic caster, and she's a backup melee, being a she's a Feyblade, all right, patron of the Archfey, and she has a packed blade. Doesn't have the best armor class, but that's fine. She can still summon, a big two-handed beater stick in combat, and be behind Janet here if necessary, or can poke from behind her with some sort of like a glaive or something that she's summoning as her packed blade. She's also she has a lot of utility. Also, she can read any written language. Which, if you did want to put that up here, right? There's written ciphers. If you wanted to list that there is this ability, you could. Though, if someone has tongues or comprehend language, yeah. If you want to write down all the spells, maybe not. This is non-magical. Mask of Many Faces, so she can hide a little bit better because she is running from the law. Thirsting Blade, Minions of Chaos, Whispers of the Grave, so she can speak to the dead at will. Witch Sight will help out. It's like an arcane. Gaze of Two Minds, so she can read thoughts. She can go up into combat. She can help defend the ship. She's a utility person aboard the ship. She can do a lot of things, including help fix it, right? Carpenter's tools. Next up, we have Shiana, or as we jokingly called her, Oceana. A runaway druid. She embarrassed her circle and she's self-exiled. I mean, could she go home? Probably. But she'd be facing the scorn of her parents or neighbors or something along those lines. She is high magic, and she is... Yes, bards can heal, though druids are going to get more healing options. So she is a high magic user, especially with the Circle of the Land ability. And she is probably going to be the ship's medical officer. Lastly, we have Amadea, who was a very interesting character to build. Super tall, though she is a child prodigy. And so, as we were thinking, maybe she's a noble that ran away from home. She was also a hermit. And maybe she's a noble that ran away from home. Maybe she was tinkering with some kind of magic or a potion. And so, yes, you have a very smart... there's like an anime protagonist, right? You get Ash leaving out of Pallet Town at 10 years old to capture Pokemon all around the world. Well, maybe she ran away. She was very well educated. She took to music and lessons and lectures very well. And something happened, maybe in a magical awakening, and here she is in an adult body. She's 6'3", 167 pounds. Either that, or she's just been drinking her milk. It's a very intriguing character concept when you leave yourself open to randomness like this. And that's why I was kind of saying that she's the trifling lolly, quote unquote, of the group. Let me catch up here. So, Bobstick5, go ahead and ask Maddie where questions to help with your character. And Dorgrim is still helping out. Shippo, where do you start? So, Bobstick, what we'll do is we will make you a character. What I want to do here is finish out our SWOT analysis for our party. Take like a 5-minute break, and then we'll get into part 2, which is talking about how to make a campaign. When I finish that, then we enter into a free time, and I can make a character with you, in front of you, and with your input. Though some things you're going to want to consider, Bobstick, if you don't really care, you want to leave yourself open to whim and fancy and the winds of chaos, we can make a completely random character for you, and you can see how the process goes that way. Otherwise, if you say, I've really wanted to play an elf, and I really like paladins from other, from comics or video games or something. Can we make an elven paladin? Start thinking. Oh, you already know you want to be a half-orc monk. Okay, there are, and you say him, so you want a male half-orc monk. There's a couple other things that you need to consider. There are 3 paths of being a monk. You can be a straight up martial artist, and you can do all of like the kung fu movie super special effects. You can be a ninja, shadow dancer. It's called Way of Shadow. So you can be a quasi-magical monk who focuses on think more like ninja tactics. Like you get some short-range teleportation between shadows, stuff like that. Or you can be an elemental monk. You know, think maybe Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? You have the power to use elemental spells and martial arts together. Those are your three choices for specializing your monk. The last thing that you'll want to consider, and if you want to leave any of this random, let me know. The last thing you want to consider is your character's background. In 5th edition D&D, you don't just say, "Well, I have a half orc monk." Your character background is a major part of your character itself. There are 13 different backgrounds. If you have a background already selected, then let me know what you want your background to be. Or if you want to just throw out a concept, we can find a background that works. Or I can just roll randomly, and all backgrounds work with all races, and all races and backgrounds work with all classes. It's really nice in D&D. You play whatever thematically you want, and you can be a good character at that pursuit. Shippo says, how common is a wood elf to get the mobile feat? So they have... I don't know, Shippo, about statistics like that. Every game is different. The context is going to be different in a lot of situations. It's completely up to you. If you're going to be the pilot of this character, do you want to give this character the mobile feat? Well, there's background story, Bobo, here to show you real quick. There are backgrounds in the book that are going to be giving you mechanical benefits as well as thematic storytelling. Now, I mean, if you want to come up with the pure fluff, that's fine. Though there's going to be some mechanical things that we need to take from the background. For instance, let's say that you wanted to be a charlatan. You know, you could have been a criminal. There's different scams that you could be good at running. You don't have to be a bad guy to be a charlatan, by the way. You don't have to be evil. But this is going to give you some skill proficiencies, some tool proficiencies. It's the bridge between fluff and crunch. And so if you think of a backstory, we can try and fit it into a background that exists. Or you can take a look at the list of 13 backgrounds and let me know which one you think sounds good. And keep in mind, too, that some of these might have a slight variant. For instance, if you're a criminal... you'll get all of this as part of your character. There is a variant to this in other backgrounds where instead of just a criminal, you're actually a spy, which is going to make you more of you get the same stuff, but your story will make it more political, more espionage, a little bit more maybe Metal Gear Solid than, than playing, Aladdin on the Genesis or Super Nintendo, because they were two different games and you can choose which one is superior. Oh no, did I set off a conversational bomb? Dark Wolf, well, think something up, and yep, we'll meld it to a type. Dark Wolf can help you out with that too, Bob's. While I'm presenting, Dark Wolf, if you want to ask her questions, or Dorgrim or others might be able to help out too. And then when we get to part 3, we'll build this character in front of you. Dorgrim says, I'd also stress that the feats are only optional if the DM allows them. The system is built not to require feats or magic items. Yes, that is very true, Dorgrim. Context is key. Communication is key. Monks, use key. All right. This was the brief story that I created in how... Remember, we're PCs. We're player characters. We're excited. We're going to be going through a new adventure. Our DM, hopefully, will be very nice. Like Shippo is hoping for a nice DM right now. And what is our origin? How did we come together? We're probably not going to be starting at level 1, because a lot of us are coming aboard, literally and metaphorically, as already having our pact, as already having gone into our bardic college, things along those lines. We already have a couple years of life and living under our belt, right? Especially with our first character. She's a reformed pirate. You know, as we made Janet here, her background is pirate, and she took the bad reputation feature for her background. Yet she is a lawful good person because she turned a new leaf. Now she wants to right the wrongs that she did earlier in her life. So the concept was everyone in this campaign is going to be starting at level 4. As PCs, that's what our DM told us. I want you to generate level 4 characters, and let's bring you together and we're going to start our adventure. We went to go train with monks in order to control his anger. So that could be an outlander. Or if you're training with monks, that's probably a hermit background. Though Dark Wolf, if you want to interpret Bob Stick's idea, maybe you could throw him a couple suggestions. And if anyone else out there has suggestions for him too, hey, let's contemplate. Let's put options on the table instead of saying no, my options. Bad. Shippo says, bit demoralizing that my speedy character idea may not work. But at the same time, though, Shippo, remember, there's a lot of things that may or may not work. Because D&D isn't just a video game where everything is done the same way between all sessions. And in fact, that can work to your advantage. You can sit down with your DM and say, I would really like to pursue this. Here's my concept. Here's the math to back it up. Would you please allow me to go for a build like this? Now, your DM may say no. Hopefully your DM will say no, but, or if your DM says yes, there may also be a caveat of yes, but be prepared for enemies adjusting to your tactics. It feel a bit boring if I can't push the limits, like there's no feat or multi-class. I believe optimizing a single character's certain class is easy enough for me to do. And, well, just because in the broad concept of all 5th edition D&D games held simultaneously around the world, that there is a DM out there who may say no feats or no magic items, no unearthed arcana, etc. Don't let that demoralize you. I mean, still play around with it. You just should realize that it's not all the same. In fact, there's some DMs, you can have a spin down D20 and a regular D20. And some of your DMs will say, I will not allow a spin down D20 at my table. You have to use a regular one. Or some will say, I don't want you using a dice roller. I want you to actually roll the dice in front. Some DMs will, I do not use a DM screen. I openly roll everything in front of my players, and I have them do the same for me as it's a mutual courtesy, and it also makes the stakes higher. I can't fudge rolls as a DM that way. So don't let it demoralize you, Shippo. If you like the challenge of care-opping, go for it. Just realize that in 100% of D&D games held all around the world, that will not be... It's not like min-maxing in an MMORPG, which is a closed system, and everything exists specifically in a consistently programmed way. And I get what you're saying, Dorgrim, about there's more to D&D than the system, though in Shippo's defense, not that I think you're attacking him, in Shippo's defense, this is part of D&D also, is care-opping, is pushing boundaries, trying to think as creatively as possible. Now, the pendulum swinging back, Shippo, is, while you can do that, there may not be 100% instances where you could just show up to a person's table, online or off, or go to a convention, and that's the case. Every game is context dependent with the DM and the other players. Well, and you know what, Shippo, if there's anything else we can do to help you try and build a character or help you work within various systems or to give you heads ups, hey, that's why we're here. We can talk math in this channel as well. It's not all just storytelling and happy fluff fun time. So don't give up on the system. Don't give up on your dream of running a speedy character as well. Hang around, interact with us as much as you want, and I hope that we'll see you again if you are taking off, okay? Dark Wolf. So yeah, Sage, Acolyte, or Hermit. So think of it this way, Bobstick. Did you go to the monastery to... Was this to contemplate, to sort of improve yourself in a physical in a physical way, or did you enter a monastery maybe to find spiritual peace? Did you enter some kind of seclusion or monastery to learn more about the world around you, maybe to learn why you are the way you are, or why people are the way they are by studying histories or whatnot? Do you want to be a brain? Do you want to be a brawn? Do you want to be a face? You know, you can speak in generalities like this, because you can be a religious character without having to be a paladin, without having to be a cleric. If you could be a monk who has a deep sense of spirituality, but he doesn't have to cast divine magic. So think of your character in that sense too. At this point, I need to wait for Unearthed Arcana. Okay, I got you, Shippo. I got you. I super appreciate you bringing the math up and challenging us to think inside and outside of the box simultaneously. That's something that a lot of us, especially those of us who are stuck in a storytelling groove, we don't often get exposure to that. And so you coming in and bringing up these topics is excellent for shaking off the dust and helping us to consider other options. So that is very valuable input for the channel to consider as well. Okay, so welcome aboard the Rising Tide. This old floater or float boat has been restored by a small but dedicated crew consisting of reformed criminals and assorted runaways. If you want to sum up our party, that's what it is. Its captain, Janet, salvaged it after she fled from a life of piracy and decided to start anew, while she had life left in her to do so. Along the way, she picked up Shiana, who serves as the ship's lookout and morale officer / medic. Malda is the engineer and security officer. Ethel came aboard as a chaplain and scribe. Now, this is what I'm talking about too, Bobstick. Ethel is a transmutation specialist wizard, though his background is acolyte. So he is a pious man, despite him being a wizard and casting arcane magics. They're not simultaneously, they're not like mutually exclusive. Amadea, however, has yet to find a place in the crew, formally having just arrived and seemingly green around the gills, despite her apparent maturity. Together with about 5 other NPC hands at any given time, they ply the lake, rivers, floating islands, and coastal waters to find trade, themselves, adventure, and perhaps to bring a little justice to a land that saw them each put out in their own ways. There you go, levels 1 through 4 explained, and why everyone is together. Shippo likes going the special routes. Now poofs for real. The rest of my brain from theorizing so much. And Darkwolf says, Shippo, hey, you're giving me ideas for a campaign baddie. While not as complex, I enjoy the info and ideas. Well, that's really nice of you to say, Darkwolf and Shippo. I hope that you're getting a little bit of a grin on your face there if you're inspiring one of our fellow DMs here to think of a very unique challenge for her players in her campaign. All right. Let's make this a... Whoop, come on. There we go. Taking into consideration now what we have here on page 1, we can now make what's called a SWOT report. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses are internal to the party. They're things that are just intrinsic to who and what it is. Opportunities and threats are external to the party. These are things that they would be more likely to encounter but don't have as much control over. For instance, if you know that it's becoming summertime and people get thirstier in the summer, you have an opportunity to create a lemonade stand and to be successful. A threat to that could be a cooler than average summer, It could be an economic downturn. It could be it rains for, you know, your big 3 days of sales. Those are external threats to your lemonade stand. They're things that you can't really do anything about. I mean, unless you can cast control weather or something along those lines. But I think you get the idea here. So now what I want to do with your all's input is let's form our SWOT report for our party. Where does it shine? What are what are our weaknesses which could use improving? Question mark. Let's see. Strengths. Well, we have lots of utility, attacking, power, and healing magic. With a warlock, a wizard, a druid, and 2 bards in the party, what do you want? You want buffs? You want debuffs? You want attack magic? You want support magic? You want healing magic? You want regeneration? You want whatever? Our party has it. Lots of magical support in some way. Another strength is there is only one skill which has 0 members proficient. Obviously, you can highlight that religion and medicine are strengths to our party. Broadly, while there are many skills that have only 1 member proficient, the 2 bards. I know if it's 10 or under, you should write it out. I'm just doing this to abbreviate things. While there are many skills that have only 1 member proficient, the 2 bards can offer great support and coverage to everything else needed. Oh, what do we have here? Dex Cha, Int Wiz, Wiz Cha, Int Wiz, Dex Cha. Mental save proficiencies is something else. Whoop. Also, party harmony due to alignments and party context. That they're all members of a crew. They're all going to be getting along fairly well with each other. I mean, so who's the worst person among them? It is Shiana, the gossip monger druid, and even then, she's neutral. And yep, that's true, Dark Wolf. To be fair, the druid can learn spells to cover animal handling. In fact, I'll even make that as a note. That is a strength also. We can't even just make a note over here. Druid could cover this via magic. You know, something like that. Hey, Tin Cat, welcome back. Hello all, won't be very active right away as I'm still at work. Been here for 9 hours already and almost done. By almost, I mean maybe another hour or two. You work at Subway where the managers work first shift and don't do poop and then push their work onto you. Oh my goodness. Oh, and you're down in Texas. Oh, and you lived in Cleveland. Well, I'm in Sandusky, Ohio. So if you come back north, Tin Cat, stop by and say hello. Anyway, hang in there. There's probably a lot of us that have done similar work. I either have done, are doing. or otherwise we respect that there are people like you out there who are working the non-optimal shifts or have that kind of managerial burden. So stay with us. Let us empower you. We'll lend you our strength, Tin Cat. The real Dorgrim, they also have a pretty good level of moving without being noticed because of the Druid as well. Dark Wolf says, Tin Cat, move to Sandusky instead of Cleveland. There you go. You're getting an endorsement from her too. We have also excellent linguistic spread. Okay. Now, we can go the easy route and look at the opposites of everything we wrote above for strengths, but there might also be some rather unique weaknesses here as well. For instance, something that's not really listed as a strength, we don't have a super beefy frontliner. We have a frontliner. Our College of Valor Bard is our tank, is our frontliner, and she can do a decent job, especially given all of the backup she can get. What I mean by that is we don't have a strength fighter, we don't have a beefy barbarian, we don't have the AC for days or hit points for days or hit points and AC for days, super specialized combat. We're kind of having to make up for that by the fact that if you look, we have decent con scores across the board. So everyone here, look, they apparently have been drinking their milk. They're beefy characters. They can take a couple hits. They get these bonus EXPs. What's another weakness here? A weakness is much of the party would be disabled in an anti-magic or even wild magic area. Everyone here uses magic. If you took magic off the table for some reason, due to circumstance, due to entering some field or something, our party will not be what it is. Meanwhile, a barbarian's like, oh, an anti-magic field? Oh, well, I feel exactly the same. Tin Cat only moved here to be with your girlfriend, but you're too far from your friends and family. Can we get a character that just uses heavy bladed chains as whips? You could make something like that, Tin Cat. Also, while I missed it above, Jam Jam did roll a Who Goes There, and Jam Jam called out your DM D20. Is that you? And your DM shouts out Optimize Prime. Oh, so do we have a min-maxing DM here? Does that sound believable, Jam Jam? Are you going to attack your DM? What are some other weaknesses out there that you all see in this party? Let's be brutally honest with each other, right? No party is going to be perfect. No one character nor one party is going to be perfect. Now remember, these are things that are internal to the party. Do you remember... Oh, you're going to go into lurk mode? No problem, Tin Cat. Thank you for at least popping on and saying hi. When you're free from Subway at last, there you go, Dorgrim. Not just Khan. Ooh. A stiff wind might be able to blow down some of these sailors. Anyway, Tin Cat, come back when you can. So, Dorgrim is absolutely correct. Strength and con saves. And, things like, I believe it's Gust of Wind and other similar effects can require, I do believe that requires a strength save. There may be other things, and look at poisons. Now, fortunately, Shiana is immune to poison. And Malda is resistant. Everyone else, and even to an extent Malda, they can be poisoned. They can take the full poison damage. because there's not really con saves, because that's for stuff like necromantic and acidic, things like that. And there's some big AoEs that would just love to, you just cast, cloud kill over the ship. And they might be hurting puppies. If you remember as well, when we were making our map and we were making the culture of the area, the major race are tieflings, the minor race are wood elves, and then there's a fringe of humans that live in the mountains and on the coast. Well, we have a human, we have a tiefling. In fact, we can even put that here. No elves to make better social graces in the floating islands. Not even a half elf. So for the region, two of our three are represented and might be able to make better inroads. Though for the floating islands, which are going to be an important part of the campaign, we do not have an elf. So if our elves are going to be a little bit more xenophobic perhaps, or only want to deal with other elves, or are going to be suspicious at the tiefling in the party, let alone the human, we are missing that component in the party. We have a pretty good spread everywhere else. Strength and wisdom are a bit of feast and famine, but there's enough high scores, or at least average scores, compared to the kind of the dump scores that are here. So I don't know if I'd necessarily call that a strength or a weakness, but for sure we are weaker in the strength and wisdom departments than we are the others. We are, by the way, our main charisma is our strength. 16, 15, 20, 14, 18. Oh, we can bat our eyelashes and go, pretty please, and we'll probably be able to get a lot done. Though again, if a stiff breeze comes our way, we might be blown over the gunwale, or the gunnel. Tin Cat, quick question: what exactly are you doing at the moment? Sorry if this seems, you're just curious. What we made 5 characters over the course of the week, Tin Cat. And now, as player characters, right, we're pretending we are the ones who made these characters, and we're going to sit down. As player characters, we're going over our party, and we're finding our strengths and weaknesses. We're making a party character sheet, so we can understand, as a functional crew aboard this ship, what are we good at doing, and what are we not going to be so good at doing. If it comes also to it, we have lack of a divine class / type of magic. Now we do have an acolyte, and so that is an inroad into religious institutions. If for some reason, I don't know, we enter an undead zone, right? And you're like, oh wow, I really wish that we had access to turn undead. We don't have a divine class like a paladin or a cleric who can specialize in that. Or if for some reason we encounter a puzzle our DM gives us, because we're having this conversation as PCs, and we need to be able to cast holy magic upon a stone in order to open the way forward in the hidden temple. Well, we don't really have divine style magic. You could argue that perhaps the Druid is divine, although if you want to make a case that it's more primal magic or nature magic, that'll be up to you and your DM to discuss. Though in broad concept, we have a lack of a divine class or type of magic. Thus, undead and or fiends could be more troublesome. I mean, look, they have hit points like everything else, but if you have classes that specialize in smiting or banishing undead or fiends, you know, those undead isn't an uncommon monster type. Fiends probably, though I think we're all familiar with demons and devils and stuff. You know, even minor ones like little imps or things that you can fight a swarm of. Though undead for sure are a more common monster type. And so to not have someone that's really specializing in their extermination could be a hindrance. Then again, we don't know what our DM is planning. That's why we're trying to put everything on the table. We're having a hashtag real talk. Okay, opportunities. What are external opportunities for our party? Well, it looks like our DM has given us a boat, right? So we have, we're starting with mobility and a way to generate income / pay for lifestyle expenses. I don't know if you can hear it, but one of my cats is singing in the background. I don't know what is making her do that, but it's that tin cat drifts back to lurk in the shadows. Yep, we have a mobile base of operations too. So base of operations, shelter, room with board available. Opportunities also, we have our IBFs can align in many ways for unified decision making. IBF, ideal bond flaw. It's that part of the personality that comes along with your background. Yeah, I do agree, Tin Cat. I think that they can earn a living, and we will have this be a part of the campaign, to be able to generate income by going place to place with a hull full of cargo. You're 2 steps ahead. Tin Cat, you're such a nub that you're actually an expert. You've come full circle. So our IBFs can align in many ways for unified decision making, and that is so important as a group. That if everyone can intrinsically be aboard, on board, you know, literally metaphorically, so that we don't have bickering at the table, we don't have these meta circumstances. There's a lot that everyone can do on the ship that is meeting their goals in some way. And as Tin Cat inadvertently foreshadowed, that can come into play in the campaign as well. High charisma for making allies, gathering information, and earning money. Threats. Well, ship expenses. How are we going to fix this ship? How are we going to upkeep it? How are we going to grow it? How are we going to make it, you know, bigger, better, faster, fly higher, fly faster? What happens if we get into a ship combat and we have a hole blown out of the side of it? The ship is a threat itself, because not only are there ship expenses, there are also disasters on the water. External threats also to our party include, I guess we'll call them encounters. Those could be traps, hazards, fights, random things happening. Encounters, not just on land as we disembark, but encounters on land, river, lake, sea, mountain, and sky. we can run into trouble, and oftentimes lethal trouble, in a lot of areas. You know, if we're in a naval situation, we might be able to swim for a while. If we're flying and someone throws a fireball at our balloon that's keeping us afloat, whew. You know, at that point, you kind of wish you were on the water. You're like, wow, at least I could, the Druid can say, I'll talk to the sharks and be like, hey, come on, be cool, bro. But can your Druid talk to gravity? Buddha Belly, yeah, oh, there's storms, yeah, there's a lot more environmental effects. Environmental effects, weather, and the need for great amounts of income for pay, upkeep, and upgrades. You have to pay not only, whoever's playing Janet, you're the captain, you're the paymaster, right? You're the quartermaster, unless you want to assign someone else that duty, or you're the bursar. You have to pay your crew, including the other players, and the NPC crewmates who are here helping you out too. You have to pay for the ship's expenses, stocking up food and water, buying supplies so that you can trade them elsewhere for a profit. You want to upgrade your ship over the course of the campaign? You better darn well earn money enough to do so. Dark Wolf, Grumpy Dragon Mamas. Wait, wrong game. Yeah, that's... Tin Cat says, would it be cool if the ship was powered by Eldritch, who lives on the underside of the craft, and that's what powered it. An Eldritch engine, if you will. And we can get into the details of that. Maybe that's an upgrade option down the line, Tin Cat. As DMs, we could think of that and say, well, look, I'm going to give you a wooden hull and a big old balloon, and you guys, in a sail. You make of it what you will, and over the course of the game, as you earn money, you can upgrade it. And maybe you get 2 balloons, or maybe by the end, you can afford one of these, these highfalutin, it's powered by some Eldritch energy source, or, it's like an elemental contained in a Pokeball engine, and so it just sort of farts out lightning and you zap around everywhere. There's options. We have options there. You want to give something to us as the players, because we're talking as PCs. You as the DM, in this case Tin Cat, want to incentivize us, right? Not only are you setting the theme of the campaign, but you're incentivizing us. You're going to reward us for pursuing, high risk, high reward situations. Oh, thank you, Dark Wolf. I appreciate that. There's ammunition, there's other things, there's costs, there's encounters, there's weather. Oh my goodness. Alright, so I think we have a good understanding of the party. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 5 to 10 minute break. I'm going to get some water. I'm going to drink it and sit back and savor. And when we come back, we're going to... Oh, hey, thank you, Tin Cat. When we come back, we are now going to take off our PC hats, and we're going to wear our DM hats. And we're going to plan milestones to take this party through X amount of levels in a campaign. And I will tell you, between you and me, we're going to introduce some new campaign mechanics that we haven't talked about yet. See you in 5 to 10 minutes.